Welcome to episode 16 of the SpeakSmart channel. Today's topic is all about the verb to be, one of the most essential verbs in English.
Hello, everyone. Stay with us as we explore how to use this versatile verb in conversations and writing.
The verb to be in English means to exist or to be in a state and is vital for describing or defining things.
It changes its form depending on the subject and tense, like am, is, and are in the present tense.
For example, when you talk about yourself, you say I am, which means I exist or I am in a state.
When talking about another person, you use he is or she is, such as he is a student.
If the subject is plural, you use are. For instance, they are happy means they are in a happy state.
To make a negative sentence, simply add not after the verb. For example, I am not tired means I am in a non-tired state.
To ask a question, invert the subject and the verb, like are you ready, which asks about the listener's state of readiness.
Now that we've explored the present tense, let's look at how to be works in other tenses.
In the past tense, to be changes to was and were, depending on the subject.
For example, I was at home means I existed at home in the past.
When the subject is plural, use were. For instance, they were happy describes a past state.
For negative sentences in the past tense, just add not after was or were, like she was not there.
To ask a question in the past, start with was or were. For example, were you at school?
In the future tense, use will be for all subjects. For example, I will be there describes a future state.
Negative sentences in the future are formed by adding not, like I will not be late.
Questions in the future tense start with will, like will you be at the party?
This verb is also essential for forming continuous tenses, as in I am running or they were eating.
The verb to be also appears in passive sentences, like the book was written by her.
In the present continuous tense, to be combines with the ing form of the verb, as in she is singing.
Similarly, in the past continuous tense, it becomes was or were plus the ing form, like they were studying.
To create negative sentences in continuous tenses, add not, such as I am not working right now.
Questions in the continuous tense are made by placing to be before the subject, like are they coming?
For the perfect continuous tenses, to be is part of the structure, such as I have been reading.
Passive voice heavily relies on to be, as in the project was completed yesterday.
Another example is the cake is being decorated, which shows an ongoing action in the passive voice.
In conversational English, contractions like I'm, your, and he's are often used instead of I am, you are, and he is.
For example, instead of I am happy, you can say I'm happy, which sounds more natural.
Similarly, they are ready becomes they're ready in spoken or informal English.
Don't forget, in questions, contractions are less common. For instance, are you ready remains unchanged.
In informal writing, such as text messages, contractions are very common and save time.
Now let's practice forming sentences. I'll give you a subject, and you make a sentence with to be.
Okay, for example, if I say he, you can respond with he is a teacher.
Great! If I say we, you could say, we are friends, or any other sentence that fits.
Let's talk about some common mistakes with to be. For example, some learners forget to use am with I.
Right. Saying I student instead of I am a student is incorrect because to be is missing.
Another mistake is mixing up is and are, like saying they is happy instead of they are happy.
Also, remember that was is for singular subjects in the past, and were is for plural ones.
Correct. Saying we was late is incorrect. It should be we were late.
In questions, be careful with word order. For example, is he ready? Is correct, but he is ready is not.
Let's move on to some exercises. I'll say a sentence and you make it negative. Ready?
Sure. If you say she is here, I'll say she is not here.
Perfect. Now try turning this into a question. They are at school.
Easy. The question is, are they at school?
Well done. Now let's do the same in the past tense. If I say he was late, what's the negative?
It's he was not late. And the question would be, was he late?
Exactly. Practicing these changes helps you master to be in all contexts.
Another exercise is to describe yourself or others using to be. For example, I am a quick learner.
That's a great idea. You could also say something like, we are excited to learn.
Let's practice describing places. For instance, you can say, the library is quiet.
Another example is, the park is beautiful in the morning. Descriptive sentences are a good way to practice to be.
You can also talk about the weather using to be, like it is sunny today.
And in the past tense, you could say, it was rainy yesterday. These are everyday phrases.
Another fun activity is practicing emotions. For example, I am happy or she is excited.
In the negative, you might say, I am not sad or he is not worried.
Questions about emotions could be, are you angry or is she surprised?
Let's talk about professions. For instance, he is a doctor or they are engineers.
Negative sentences might include, she is not a teacher or we are not artists.
In questions, you could ask, is he an architect or are they students?
Don't forget contractions when speaking casually, like he's a doctor or we're not busy.
Yes, and contractions help make your speech sound more natural, like I'm not sure.
Now, let's use to be to talk about time. For example, it is 5 o'clock or it is late.
In the past tense, you could say it was early or it was a beautiful day.
You can also use to be for locations, such as the keys are on the table.
Or in the past, the meeting was in the conference room. These are practical sentences.
Another tip is using to be to discuss opinions, like this movie is great or the book is interesting.
Negative opinions might be, this movie is not good or the weather is not nice today.
Questions about opinions could be, is this movie good or is the book interesting?
And finally, remember that practicing with friends or...
That brings us to the end of episode 16 of SpeakSmart. Thank you for joining us today.
Don't forget to practice what you've learned. Use the verb to be as often as you can.